Welcome to Age Potential TV. I'm Lori Campbell, your host, gerontologist, and advocate of your best life, here to introduce you to an emerging trend called Age Potential. Here's to living out your age potential. Marianne Williamson's poem, Our Deepest Fear, has been inspiring people for decades with its deeply resonating message about our fear of greatness, of standing out from the pack. Today, you will experience a unique segment of Age Potential TV as my guests, Carol Baumeister and Margie Aguilar, and I will discuss this poem, Our Deepest Fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And when we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson. Welcome, Carol. Welcome, Margie.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you, Lori.
Yes. Well, I invited you two here because I really wanted to discuss the poem, Our Deepest Fear. I see a synergy between the Age Potential message and the ideology of the poem. And one of the synergies that I see is that, as Marianne states, she really feels that we have a fear of greatness. And from my standpoint, as a gerontologist, I see people having a fear of thriving. So I'm just curious, do either one of you have, do you see any synergy between the poem and the Age Potential message?
You know, I do, because I think that Age Potential is really empowering, and it's a different way of looking at life, not two parts. And part of that is the maverick thinking, where you're going to stand against people. You might not follow the status quo. And I think her poem is addressing the same thing, is, you know, your truth or our light might not be the same as what everyone around us is telling us it is. So I do think maverick thinking and the poem share a lot in common.
Margie, anything to add or anything come to you?
I think with sharing your light with it, I think that really, I think is an important part. Because I think, once you start sharing that light, other people do start coming around you and start, wanting that same kind of light. And I kind of see that as, then it kind of attracts other thrivers, other similar thinkers like me. So that's where I see the synergy.
Sure. Great insight. Well, what I found so profound, this poem very distinctly really challenges our belief on what we fear. I mean, most of us really believe that we fear being inadequate or that we don't measure up. And what Marianne is trying to bring across is that our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Let's talk about that. Wow. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with her, and I've heard this poem over the years. It's, people in general, we have a lot more power, but we give it away. And sometimes it's very painful. It's easier to play small, and it's easier to believe the negative thoughts than to actually embrace the unknown and have faith and take a leap. And so I think that can be scary for other people when you're on that path, because and also asking for what you need. A lot of power comes from conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of us, sometimes we won't have those conversations when really people want us to shine, because, as you were saying, it's attractive to them if you're owning your power.
Right.
I think with the fear part of thriving or showing your light, for me, I think the scary part of it is, when you start thinking about something that you want to happen and you put the energy out there for it and you get it, I think that's really scary. And the opposite happens too, and it's happened to me just in the past few weeks where I was thinking about something all day and then at the end of the day, that thing happened. And then the other way happens too. So it's kind of scary if you put that energy out there. It's kind of fearful to really put out what you really want because you just might get it. So I think that's kind of the scary part for me is be careful for what you wish for.
Sure.
You just might get
Sure,
it either
sure.
way. So
Right. We're consciously maybe ready, but are we, with a full body, mind, spirit, are we really ready to embody that being big, so to speak? What's interesting, young little children love to get the stage. They love to have the limelight. And then all of a sudden we grow up and we want to pull back. So do you think a part of this is we've been socialized, or what do you think? What happens from being young and, watch me, Mom, watch me, to what we kind of become?
Well, I think part of this as an adult is our ego gets intact and we have a lot of fear of failing. And Oprah just had a great quote about you can't really fail because every time you're always learning something. It's just maybe the universe or God pulling you in the direction you're supposed to be headed. And I was thinking about that as a child. You just have dreams and you're just pure energy and joy and you just want to go for things. And when you get to be an adult, you get clouded by maybe the community around you or what people think, or how to. We stop dreaming like we did.
I know.
How can it happen if I have to pay my bills? How can it happen if I have a family? Or is this responsible to have this dream?
Sure. So the everyday life weighs us down.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think of it as being, I think if you're being a dreamer when you were a child, some people might think you're being really boastful, or like you said, your ego gets really out of control. And I think, a lot of times if you can start sharing what's your accomplishments and things like that, other people get some hope. So I think it's just the way you share it too. I mean, there is that boastful, I know everything. And there's also just having knowledge and sharing some knowledge that might help somebody else. So I think it's that kind of that balance of the ego and, and humility. And I think that, I think we kind of get confused that humility means that we shouldn't talk about any of our accomplishments and we shouldn't say what we've done. So I think there's a good balance there between that.
That's a great point. So we know that it's our fear that really holds us back. So let's talk a little bit as how does a person really liberate themselves from their fear? What has helped you over the years liberate yourself from any kind of fears?
With my fear, I think, I have to just go through it. And it's just something that I've always been told, go through the fear, don't go around it, don't go over it, just go right through it. And also the thing that I always ask myself is, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And somebody said something to me today. She said, it's not whether I want to do something or I want to do something, but do I want to say that I've done something, that I've done it? So in other words, if I can say, well, I don't really want to do that, but I kind of want to say that I did it. So I'm going to do it. So that's kind of going through that fear. And I kind of like that she said that today to me because it made me think about it. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm really kind of scared to come here today, but I really want to say I did this. So that's kind of going through that fear and just thinking of it as an adventure.
I think you can run into it a couple ways if you've ever, I know people who've had, if you've ever experienced death or had someone close to you die, or you've had a near close experience, I think your mindset goes, this is where we're all going, so what can I do while I'm here? What can I contribute? But on the other side, I'm a very anxious person by nature and fearful, but a lot of times it's just doing the opposite of what I'm thinking. Doing the action anyway and thinking about if this was my last day here, what did I bring? What did I do? Sure.
Well, it leads into like an acronym one of the Thrivers shared with me during some of my qualitative research. She said, when I feel fearful, she says, her acronym is false evidence appearing real. In other words, that's what she says to herself. She says, I name it, meaning most of our fear is not based in truth. So if I just say, this is false evidence appearing real, I just thought that was really clever. Just a very short acronym to kind of, nip it, kind of put it in its place, name the fear, and all of a sudden it subsides. So it's cool.
You hope, right?
Yeah, you hope. Yeah. Another thing I thought was really neat is Brené Brown. She said when she has to step into something big, like if she's speaking in front of 5,000 people or going on the Oprah show she was just on, she says she always slips in some permission slips in her pocket. And she was giving some examples. I give myself permission to be seen. I give myself permission to be heard. I give myself permission to be me. And so maybe that's it. We just need to we just need to give ourselves permission to be ourselves, to express our greatness, our gifts, our talents. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I totally think so. I mean, lately I've been working on, a lot of people think they have to work on being more quiet and taking some time to pause and not say some things, where I'm kind of the opposite. I don't like to say a whole lot or ask for what I need a whole lot. So I've been practicing using my voice a little bit more without being bossy or, complaining like, hey, my food is wrong, but instead of saying it nicely, saying, hey, but my food's a little undercooked, and I'm wondering if maybe, you could just put it on because I wouldn't say that usually. I would just say, oh, well, no, this is good enough. I don't need anything more than this. And knowing that I deserve more than that. I've worked hard to get to where I'm at now, and I deserve to have things the way I like them. Instead of being demanding, I want to get what I need and what I deserve. So I think that's a big part of letting my light shine a little bit more, is using my voice a little bit more and not, kind of cowering back and saying, no, this is good enough. This is good enough. I'm all right. Sometimes I'm not. So it's kind of fun to start practicing that. I'm having a good time with it.
Mm-hmm. I love the people I really look up to will share their vulnerability. Men and women, the people I really look at their life, they're open and they're not afraid to be like, I don't look so good right now. Internally, like my life isn't lining up so great, or I'm not happy with where I'm at. And that takes so much courage. Like what she's talking about, Brené Brown, to me is the truth. And when the only way I've grown is to stop trying to look good and turn myself inside out, or live out loud. And it's hard though. It's, if you don't grow up like that, I think it's a generational thing too. My mom's generation, in their 70s, people were surviving after World War II, so they weren't really living out loud. And I think it's we really are on the cusp of that, this generation, and the younger ones, the millennials, or that's more in our language, our everyday language.
So you feel like your generation is really open to this and very engaging in expressing self.
I'm a Gen Xer. I think that the language is given to us. We grew up with it.
Sure.
And I think that's coming more and more. But that doesn't mean we don't have to own our life or our responsibility. I'm not talking about being victims, but vulnerability of just sharing things.
Sure. Good. Well, Miss Williamson states, our playing small doesn't serve the world. So why do you think we choose, maybe we don't choose, or it just happens? Why do we fall into playing small?
I think, again, it's just that humility and just wanting to, kind of shrink back a little bit. And for me, I know I like to let other people take charge. I'm afraid that I'm not going to do a good enough job, or I'm going to fail, of course. So then I'll just kind of let somebody else do it. Let somebody else pick up the ball, kind of be quiet for a few minutes, and then, if nobody else does it, then I might do it. But I think for me, it's letting somebody else take charge means that I'm not the one that's going to fail. They might be the ones that will fail. So I think it's the fear, That's why I play small sometimes, because I don't want to take the responsibility of something, and again, I'm finding myself taking more responsibility little bit by little bit, and stepping up and taking charge a little bit more and becoming a leader more than a follower, and getting into a herd instead of being on the outskirts, just kind of traipsing along, but actually getting in the middle. And I think good leaders will make other good leaders, and I think it's a really good, important thing to do, is to show that you can be a leader, especially to my daughter and my kids, to show that I can be a leader and other people will follow, and then they start branching out and they start being leaders too. So I think that's a really good point.
That's well said. I think for a part of my life, I didn't realize I was like afraid to listen to that inner voice with my dreams. I didn't think I was good enough to really go after that because it seemed so absurd.
Sure.
And I wanted to do voiceovers. I was like, that doesn't make sense. But then I took those baby steps, like radio school, coaching, and then jobs came. I think the other part too is, if you were talking about failure, but really, if you're going to play a big game, you're probably going to fail, and that is just part of the deal. But it doesn't mean it's a getting back up on the horse and keep going, like
Right.
being committed.
And wouldn't you all agree that we, even in playing big and however you want to say, failing or, falling or whatever, going 2 steps back or whatever, you're still farther ahead than not trying at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's always
Absolutely.
that way. And the sweetest part is usually the growth in the process. Yeah.
You
I
always
think
learn
so.
something.
Yeah.
You sure
Always.
do.
Yeah, but I think of somebody, I really think a lot of this is around, like we've been touching on, the ego. We match up playing big or showing our talents in a great big way, equating to ego and boisterous and selfish. But who do I think, last night I was thinking about this and I thought, who comes to mind by playing big and making a significant difference? Mother Teresa. Now, she plays big, does she not? But there is not 1 ounce of ego or boisterous or it's all about me. But she's sure not playing small. She's making a huge, significant difference. Isn't that wow, it just hit me. Yeah, I mean, there's a beautiful example about playing big, and it has nothing to do with, tooting the horn, so to speak. Yeah. So let's talk about how we go about stepping into greatness. What do you think? If you had to lay out some foundational pieces, what have been some steps that have really helped you to, take steps forward to, you shared a few, both of you already. Anything?
Well, one of the things I really like to do is I like to do a lot of writing. So I write a lot of my goals down and how I want to see my life and what I want to see in my life. And when I do that, when I put the pen to paper, something magic happens. When I see it there and I write it over and over again, I was talking to somebody the other day and I wrote down some things about 4 years ago. I like to journal a lot, and I wrote these things down in this journal, and they all came true. All the things that I wrote down came true. And I tell people that all the time. I always tell them, when I write things down and I put it out there, it manifests itself if I truly believe it. And really at the bottom, I usually will write, when I'm ready to receive these gifts, they will come to me. I have to be ready to receive them before things come to me. I have to be, spiritually ready. For me, I have to be spiritually ready for those things to come. Otherwise, I just won't appreciate them.
And how do you get spiritually ready? I mean, is there things that you...
I do a lot of internal house cleaning, I like to call it. Think about some of the things that I need to work on myself, selfishness, judgment, things like that. If I work on some of that, everything else around me starts changing. If I work on what's inside, everything else starts changing, and it's incredible. When I start trying to change other people or my circumstances, it never works. So it's when I give it up to my higher power, a lot of times if I'll say, if I'm meant to have this, it will happen, but for now I'm just going to leave this. I'm going to go on and I'm going to help somebody, or I'm going to help somebody else with a problem, or help somebody else find their light. When I do that again, during service work, that's a huge one for me. That's how I really find my greatness. It's amazing, helping somebody else through a problem that I've already gone through. It is so gratifying. It is probably one of my most gratifying things that I do. So that's a couple things that I do.
Beautiful.
I think it's important to, and you talk a lot about this, not stepping over things, like acknowledging this, I do feel this way, or this happened, or for me it's really, I have to embrace my darkness. There was a time where I lived in that darkness, and I didn't have the light, and it was really depressing. And now I know I'm a whole being, and in order to be a whole being, I have to share, the darkness part also to let the light come in. And I think being my higher self is me saying my truth, no matter how it looks, and having people around me who I can do that with. And it doesn't mean I live in that, but I acknowledge it.
Sure.
And then I get, like you were saying, I believe like God has brought me people, or the universe brings me people like right in front of me who I miss sometimes, who I can be helpful to, or that I'm able to receive from them what they're giving me. And I think receiving is a big part of reaching your higher self. That in what you're saying, being spiritually ready. I mean, meditation helps. Showing up despite what my head says. Showing up, being a part of, being one of. Those are things that I get out of my way, and I've really received some tremendous gifts from doing that. So.
Wonderful. And I would have to share that probably, like you're saying, receiving is just allowing. I used to be a little bit more, I'm going to make this happen, kind of more forceful, or, I think the beautiful is, like you're saying, get out of the way, just allow it just to come. And amazing, because it's all within, as Marianne so eloquently says in her poem. It's not in just some of us. This divine nature, this divine gifts and talents, we all have them. It's just looking within to find them and identify them, and then, graciously, joyfully using them and sharing them. So wonderful. Miss Williamson states, when we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people the permission to do the same. When you both have done that, and it sounds like you do that often, what evidences have you seen in other people that they begin to shine their light more brightly?
Well, I have a girl that is a good friend of mine, and we've been talking about things about her light. She doesn't feel that she's good enough, and so we've been talking a lot about that, and I've been able to share a lot of my experience with her about that, and now watching her grow from it and start finding her light is just, it's just beautiful, and she's believing it. That's the great part, is that she actually believes that she does have that light inside of her. And I've seen that happen with so many people, where they really, truly start believing it. But that's been really, really interesting to watch, is just not even telling her what to do. She knows what to do, but just watching her go through that fear in order to find it herself has been just really beautiful. So that's what I've experienced lately.
That's pretty great. Also celebrating. Like, I've noticed when people like tell you a lot of times what's important to them, they share it. And when things happen for them, whether it's on Facebook, that word, but Facebook, or they call you or they tell you, to really embrace that with them. And I think that is, to me, that's like letting both our light shine. I love that, and I love to see people do things that they didn't think they could do, or other people didn't think they could do, and they totally blow the roof off it. I'm like, yes,
Absolutely, rejoicing with them. In other words, it's very encouraging for us to hear and see other people thriving, or using their gifts, or making a great stride in their life, however it may be.
And I think congratulating them instead of feeling, envious or something, but really truly feeling happy for people when they have accomplishments. That is something that's really a neat thing to see too, and to actually really feel happy, to feel really happy for somebody, instead of going, well, gosh, I wish I was like them. Well, you can be, we can all be like each other by being all together. Like this even is just, really fuels it up in me. I just can feel just, lighter.
And I almost think that's the universe giving you a sign. If you do feel bad, or what are you turning off in yourself?
Good.
What aren't you hearing?
Yeah.
Because you might be missing something that's talking to you that you've pushed aside. Tell someone else, talk it out. What's going on? Because I think you might be hiding.
Sure.
You might have some gift you're not using.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be in tune at all times. Sure. One of the ways that, that I've been awakened, so to speak, is through my research, the thrivers. You know, I mean, thrivers, you guys know, you guys are thrivers yourself. They let their light shine, and boy, does that really stoke someone up. And the more I've spent time with thrivers, wow. I mean, so much of what Marianne is saying in her poem really has some real truth to it. It does really, when someone allows themselves to live, you know, fully and completely with joy and love, with, you know, no bar none, like the thrivers do, it just liberates so many other people. It's just really cool. So I feel like like you, I have also experienced this on a personal level. It's very, very cool. So bottom line, we probably should just write ourselves more permission slips. What do you think? And forget all this fear and go forward. What do you think?
Absolutely.
It sounds like a good tool.
I know. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to start. I'm going to print some up for my friends.
I got to find some pockets in all my dresses. That's what she says. Why she wears. She was telling a story of why she's always wearing these denim jackets, because when she always does that, it's her permission slip in her jacket. So, so maybe that's. So, any last thoughts you would like to wrap it up with here?
I guess I'd like to say to, you know, people, if you feel like if this seems like a foreign conversation, it isn't. It's in you, and start being vulnerable. Find someone you're safe with, that you can be vulnerable, and you will find it. It's a road. It's a long and windy road, but some people, you know, I've seen people do it in a weekend with, you know, like there's a program called Landmark. I've seen people go there and do it in a weekend. Give yourself the gift of pausing and looking within. It's uncomfortable sometimes, but it's like the only way out. It's the only way, I believe, to awaken while we're here, to be more conscious. Some people have it naturally, probably, but I think that it's pretty, it's a human condition to go
yes,
through.
We don't tend to look within, do that self-reflection journey types thing. And what I'm hearing from you is that's an important component here.
And even if you're just surviving, like financially, or you're like, how I don't have time to have that. I'm, you know, Maslow's pyramid. I'm suffering. You can still grab onto other people and let them help you get there.
Because this is contagious. We've all agreed.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So.
And I would say, you know, about fears, you know, I like to write down my fears, and I write down little things. If I'm in the morning, if I'm feeling a little anxious, if I write down some of the fears that I have, and I look at them, and then, you know, I can kind of, you know, say that, what would I do if I wasn't afraid of this? And kind of go through it and see what I would really do. It kind of helps me along. And I think also for the, you know, the light part, you know, finding the light, I always will say to, you know, my daughter or other people, you know, if you look for the light, you're going to find it. If you look for the dark, you're going to find it. So I choose to look for more light than the dark now. You know, I look for more positive than negative in my day. So if I look for more positive, it's there, you know, and so that's just kind of a little tool I use during the day, just to stay in that light mode. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Wonderful discussion. I've been invigorated by it, and I'm sure the viewers are going to be as well. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
As Miss Williamson eloquently states, when we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Here's to you living out your age potential.